this regular session of the Inter-American Council for Integral Development. I would like to greet the distinguished permanent representatives here with us today, and the Vice Chair of City, Ambassador Mendez from Belize. I would like to greet everyone who's with us here at the table. Madam Barbara Koshwar, Officer in Charge of the Executive Secretariat of Integral Development. Good morning and welcome all. With us also from the Department of Development, we have a colleague, Georgina. Thank you very much for being here. And I'd just like to say how honored I feel to kick off this session, regular session, and to take on the responsibility of chairmanship of this council, fully aware of the historic and political importance of City as the main hemispheric forum of the Organization of American States. Integral development, of course, over the decades, this council has proven to be an essential forum to translate democratic values into public policy that would promote economic development, social inclusion, and the well-being of our peoples. As I said, when I assumed the chairmanship, full exercise of rights only persists when accompanied by economic development and true opportunities for everyone. These are complementary, not contradictory venues, as we've seen throughout history in our country and in this organization. It's that conviction that Uruguay offers to support City undertaking the analysis of the energy sector, power sector. We all know that access to energy for transportation, fuel, industry is the source of economic development, and modern sources of energy and its production is strategic to sustainable development, resilience, and regional integration. For the Americas, energy security is not an abstract concept. It's the ability to ensure trustworthy, affordable, sustainable access to energy as the basis for economic growth, competitiveness, social cohesion, and resilience vis-a-vis foreign crises or outside crises. It also means, from the national standpoint, the path towards sovereignty and energy autonomy. We understand here at City that that City plays a very crucial role to address these topics from a comprehensive perspective, promoting energy transition that is gradual, environmentally sustainable, cost-effective, and that strengthens hemisphere-wide cooperation. This work plan proposes a thematic emphasis or stress on energy security, and I would like to underscore that City remain open and flexible as part and parcel of integral development, and to that extent, or in that vein, we would like to propose those priority matters be the ones that we address here at this council. And we do have the ability to convene special meetings, and where the agenda calls for it and where resources are available, to hold additional meetings in addition to the regular ones. So I would like to recognize the outgoing chair from Suriname for his deft stewardship and carrying out of his mandate, characterized by a constructive dialogue and commitment to the objectives of the Council. Uruguay takes on the responsibility of following in his footsteps. I declare open this regular session of City, and I'm very grateful to the Executive Secretary and of Integral Development and all the delegations for your commitment to the work of this council. Thank you. Next, and in keeping with the draft order of business that has been distributed, we would like to put to the consideration of the delegations the draft order of business, document City OD 166/26 Rev 2. If there aren't any observations, we deem it approved. Now, let's move on to the consideration of the draft work plan of the Inter-American Council for Political Development, January to June 2026. As incoming chair, I'd like to share its general view of the focus that we propose for this semester of the city's work. The work plan is a guiding framework seeking to structure the cycle of monthly meetings, including today's meeting, with the purpose of promoting progressive dialogue, one that be orderly, substantive, among member states on topics of importance to the region, energy security being chief among them, resilience and integration of the Americas. This plan doesn't intend to exhaust the content of this initial session, but to be a roadmap, a clear one, throughout the semester that we will then delve into through further analysis, thematic presentations, concept notes, specialized presentations, special guests, panelists who will address these matters. We're going to have to reduce the number of panelists we usually have at the council to one or two at the most, so that topics can be dealt with in greater breadth and there can be more exchange. From that standpoint, today's meeting kicks off the first axis of the work plan about the strategic and political framework, energy security as a catalyst for economic prosperity development in the Americas. This first point seeks to focus this debate within the regional context as well as international one. By way of complementing this general outlook presented by the chair and to offer the technical strategic contribution that will frame this semester's work, it's my pleasure to give the floor to Mr. Mark Lambrides, Director of the Department of Sustainable Development of the OAS, who shall present on the key elements of the strategic, political, and energy context, energy security context of the Americas, structural gaps, and cross-cutting ties to other areas of development. You have the floor, sir, for 7 minutes. Thank you very much, Ambassador Lanza. Ladies and gentlemen, ambassadors.
It's a rather chilly day. I welcome the opportunity to share some brief remarks on the topic of energy security in the Americas. As Ambassador Lanza has indicated, the proposed work plan for CD during the first semester of 26 will consider key aspects of energy throughout the Americas. And I've been asked to provide just a few remarks to help frame the discussion as it relates to the strategic context of energy security in our hemisphere. We should begin by asking, what is energy security? Energy security is a complex theme that relates to reliability, resilience, and sustainability of energy supplies. For policymakers, energy security concerns vary widely and include such things as the stability of fossil fuel prices, the availability of energy resources, both renewable and fossil, the impacts of energy production on the local and global environment, the susceptibility of the energy infrastructure to acts of violence, cyber threats, and natural disasters. The availability and reliability of cost-effective energy supplies impacts directly many aspects of a country's social and economic development, including jobs, poverty alleviation, private sector modernization, the balance of trade. Energy security can therefore be defined as a nation's ability to supply reliable and affordable energy to meet the energy demand and to promote sustainable development. Let's consider energy natural resources in the Americas. It's generally recognized that the countries of the Americas have the potential to deliver sufficient energy to meet their current energy demands by exploiting the diversity of fossil fuel resources and renewable energy resources at their disposal. The Americas is a region endowed with abundant natural resources for energy production. For example, Venezuela, Canada, and the USA contain among the top 10 fossil fuel reserves, oil reserves in the world. The U.S., Canada, Argentina, Trinidad and Tobago, Mexico, and Brazil are amongst the world's top 30 producers of natural gas. Renewable energy resources, wind, solar, biomass, and geothermal, are abundant throughout the Americas. Latin America is a global leader in the use of renewables to create and generate electricity, and the region produces over 65% of its electricity from renewable resources, with hydropower representing much of that, with over 45% of the total. While electricity generation has expanded to meet the demand over the past decade, so too has the expansion of power grids throughout the region, including many cross-border interconnections such as the Central American CIEPAC, along with power grid connections between Mexico and the U.S. and the U.S. and Canada, and many other bilateral connections in South America. Regional electricity interconnections are in development throughout South America and include the Andean region through the CINEA, Southern Cone, Cine Sur, Northern South America, Arco Norte, and interconnections between the islands of the Caribbean are being considered. With this infrastructure development, the availability of modern electricity has grown from less than 50% of households in Latin America in the late 1990s to about 95% of homes throughout our hemisphere that have access to electricity today. We must also remember that energy includes transportation services such as cars and trucks, airplanes, trains, and ships. All of these are essential for our commerce, trade, and human mobility. We can also consider the important energy services for our industry, whether fossil fueled by electricity or fossil fuels directly. We need energy to manufacture products, build our cities, and work our farms. Despite much progress over the past decade to expand access and delivery of modern energy services, the Americas remains vulnerable to supply disruption and threats. Some of the threats that are most notable include natural disasters, such as earthquakes and extreme events, which represent a diverse and persistent threat to achieving and maintaining our secure energy infrastructure. These events can disrupt petroleum supply, exploration and distribution, damage the energy production and distribution infrastructure, and ultimately influence socioeconomic development of those impacted countries. Recently, for example, Jamaica, which despite having nearly 100% coverage of electricity throughout its country, saw over 500,000 customers lose power, and nearly a month later, 30% of the country was still without power following Hurricane Melissa. Lack of rainfall can also pose a threat, as we saw with the severe droughts which caused power outages in multiple countries of the region, including Ecuador, over the last couple of years. Other critical threats to the energy security of our region include managing access to oil and gas through development and trade. The critical role of fossil fuel makes reliability and price stability critical for development. Managing threats from terrorism and cyber attacks, such as threats that are on the rise, and increasing importance because of computer and AI management of our power systems and transportation networks, and it will be important for the region to work together to help mitigate these growing threats. In response to the many energy security challenges, hemispheric cooperation and interdependence and integration could be enhanced and encouraged as a means of facilitating the development of energy for economic development in the Americas. Among other strategies proposed for enhancing security are building smart infrastructure to increase resilience of generation, transmission, and distribution of electricity systems, as well as fossil fuel supply networks, a focus on sustainable development, access and trade of critical minerals throughout the Americas, continued focus of the energy transition, including the diversification of energy resources throughout the Americas, and collaboration among countries with international finance sources to invest in energy security measures and enhanced protection of critical infrastructure. Many of these subjects will be at the center of the SETI discussions over the next 6 months. SETI is prepared to support the member states through SETI in consideration of the critical energy security challenges. As all of you are aware, over the past 15 years, through the Energy and Climate Partnership of the Americas, ECPA, the GSOAS has focused on supporting the clean energy transition throughout the Americas. And by many accounts, ECPA has been highly successful in its mission, and with considerable inputs from other multilateral institutions, sustainable energy solutions have expanded considerably. In Latin America and the Caribbean, electricity access rates have increased dramatically, and electricity connections have expanded. ECPA is currently unfunded and is on hold. However, as I have described at previous CD meetings and at the 7th SIDS meeting held on October 14th last year, chaired by Minister Alcides from the government of the Bahamas, it has been proposed that a new partnership, the Energy and Security Partnership of the Americas, or ESPA, will be established to address the evolving energy landscape and better serve member states in addressing these challenges. I look forward to working with Ambassador Lanza over the next semester so that we can frame monthly discussions to delve into the most pressing issues facing the Americas in the energy security arena. These conversations will be critical in the design and preparation and establishment of ESPA. And with the collaboration of all member states, we hope that this will lead to the launch of ESPA as a partnership by June of this year. Thank you for your time, and I welcome the opportunity to address CD this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lambrides, for that presentation, which constitutes a worthwhile contribution for this dialogue that we'll be holding within the context of the work plan. Now I open the floor to any delegation who would like to make any remarks about the work plan.
Bueno, tiene la palabra la delegación de Bahamas.
The delegate from Bahamas has the floor.
Pensé que eso, el primero estaba mal.
I apologize. Give me just 1 minute.
Pueden aprovechar para ir a buscar un cafecito.
Maybe we should avail ourselves of this time and go get a cup of coffee and something sweet.
No creo en las premoniciones, pero que las hay, decían en mi barrio. Les pedimos disculpas.
I apologize. We had some technical issues there. And you need to ask for the floor again, please. If everyone could kindly request the floor again.
Tiene la palabra.
I give the floor to the delegation of Uruguay. Thank you, sir. First and foremost, I'd like to begin by expressing our desire for your success stewarding CD through this first semester of 2026. Secondly, may I also express the fact that it's an honor for me to be speaking for the first time at this ordinary session of the CD in the beginning of 2026. Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, distinguished representatives, member states, Uruguay would like to express its full support for the plan of work for CD for the period of January to June 2026 that was presented by the chair. And we do so not just as a country, but also with deep-seated conviction that it's a balanced, serious, and realistic plan that corresponds to the development challenges of the Americas at this time without losing sight of the general goals of our organization. Energy is key, and there are economic, social, environmental, strategic dimensions to it, and it also has implications for human rights. Energy cannot be simply understood as an economic or technical input. Energy is one of the main thrusts of this proposal, which is to put energy at the very center of the debate on development and inclusion, while also recognizing the approach of member states. From Uruguay's perspective, the contents of the plan welcomes the idea of diversification of energy sources, energy transition, and balancing challenges between production, environmental sustainability, and national interest versus regional interests. We recognize that countries in the region are all coming from different starting points and different energy needs. In order to be beneficial, energy changes need to be gradual, efficient in terms of costs, and in keeping with the development of our peoples. The plan is also clearly in line with the human rights approach. It's not presented as an abstract goal, but rather as a concrete, specific condition for social development and reducing inequalities. In that regard, Uruguay most particularly values the fact that energy security includes resilience vis-a-vis climate change, renovation and integration of infrastructure at the sub-regional level, critical infrastructure, and reducing vulnerabilities that disproportionately impact those parts of our societies that are most exposed. Another key element is a constructive spirit, which we see throughout the proposal. The plan is not creating an agenda or setting a vision, but rather it's creating a technical and political space where states can share experiences, identify good practices, and build consensus in order to make progress. The thematic approach of the meeting, going from strategies of financing to partnerships, follows a logical approach based on regional goals. We see CD as a place for coordinating public policy, technical cooperation, and financing for development. In Uruguay, believes it's particularly worthwhile to position CD as a hemispheric body which is relevant to think about energy, which is a critical element for the development of our region, and it's also a vector for integral development, and it complements the work of other bodies in the organization. The plan also includes new visions for regional development in energy integration, in critical areas, efficiency, innovation with technology, provide us concrete ways in order to add value, productivity, and strengthen regional cooperation through strategic partnerships. And this can all be done without losing sight of environmental and social sustainability of these activities. Our national experience shows long-term policies that are put in place for energy. This allows us to confirm that it is possible to have strategic planning, institutional stability, and broad political consensus in order to bring about structural change. That approach, which we believe is coming from the state and is important, promotes sustainability in time. It's an experience that is, of course, we are prepared to share. Mr. Chairman, Uruguay would like to highlight that the plan of work is not an objective or a arrival point, but a starting point. We are committed with other member states to dialogue and the body's capacity to transform these bodies in subtle orientations to promote cooperation and development. For these reasons, Uruguay would like to work with other member states and accompany the proposal and is convinced that it will strengthen CD and will contribute to a more fair, resilient, and sustainable development agenda for the Americas. Thank you. Thank you, says the chair. Welcome. I now give the floor to the Ambassador of Paraguay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ambassador Resonanza. As this is the first time that the delegation of Paraguay is taking the floor at this meeting, this beginning of the CD year, we would like to congratulate you on your appointment to the chair, and we wish you, Chair, every success in your management of this body, and you can count on the full support of our delegation to that end. With regard to the work plan that was presented and the theme, we would like to highlight that energy security is a key issue for the development of our peoples. And this is why we look forward to the presentations and dialogues that we will be having with member states on this topic in the various thematic sessions. We are convinced that for Paraguay, where the energy matrix is characterized by a high supply of renewable local energies, has a great deal to contribute to this topic in this body. You know, we have hydroelectric power plants in working with Brazil for our hemisphere, and with Argentina we have a project, and that's why I'd like to highlight that for Paraguay this topic of energy is an important one, but it's also a priority for our government. Thank you very much, sir.
Muchas gracias. Tiene la palabra el...
Thank you very much. Ambassador Brazil has the floor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to start by congratulating you for taking on the chairmanship. We wish for you a very productive semester with the support and the constructive participation and contribution of Brazil as regards the work plan. Brazil welcomes the debates proposed, especially those that relate to energy transition and the financing of mining and the energy sector. The central role that energy plays for development is something that we focus on as it speaks to the development. At the same time, it's going to be important for us to focus on long-term planning as well as investments, and with a focus on best practices. In the work plan, we see this as critical. For example, critical minerals, considering the fact that our region contributes as a main supplier of the same. It's very important for us to focus on downstream stages of greater processing and adding to value chains. Mr. Chairman, it's very important to underscore that for Brazil, the concept of energy security relates to our ability to ensure ongoing supply that's uninterrupted and that is reliable at affordable prices and in sufficient amounts. From our standpoint, we have to consider the availability and access and affordability of energy and diversifying the energy makeup as well as building the infrastructure and ensuring sustainability, not just conceptually speaking, from the standpoint of efficiency. It's very important for us to avoid duplication of efforts. We have matters such as the network of transmission networks and threats to cyber threats are something that are best addressed in the hemispheric security meetings, not here. Now, 2026 city's been around for 30 years now, and it focuses on development and the well-being of peoples of the Americas, especially the most vulnerable among us. Throughout this semester, we would like to hear about regional, sub-regional contributions that would act in the realm of energy, among which we've got the Latin American and Caribbean Organization of Energy, which has supported CELAC and the Brazilian Consensus. We hope that the debates will continue to seek out greater consensus among the member states on this subject matter. This is going to be a worthwhile exercise for us to negotiate mandates, the 3037 resolution mandates regarding energy security of the Americas. Once again, Mr. Chairman, you can count on the constructive contribution of Brazil to this end. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, embajador.
Thank you, Ambassador. I now give the floor to the delegation of the Dominican Republic. Thank you, sir. Our delegation would like to congratulate you on assuming the chairmanship of this council, and would also like to thank you for crafting the plan of work for January to June of 2026. This plan provides a clear framework, which is progressive, in order to structure our dialogue hemisphere-wide and focus on energy as a key element for interworld development. We also appreciate the substantive and detailed presentation by Director Mark Lambrides, and we took due note of it. Mr. Chairman, we value the fact that the plan recognizes energy security as a pillar of hemispheric security. In a cross-cutting manner, it includes considerations that relate to resilience vis-à-vis extreme climate events, sustainability, regional integration, energy efficiency, and access to energy. This focus is very much consistent with the priorities set forth by the Dominican Republic as a country host of the 10th Summit of the Americas, where energy security was recognized as one of the key dimensions of human security in our hemisphere. In that context, I'd like to express our support for the efforts geared to exploring building consensus in order to establish an energy security partnership of the Americas, as it was contemplated in the work plan. We believe that this initiative is a timely in order to respond to the global and regional context for energy, to meet the challenges associated with supply, vulnerability of energy infrastructure, disruptions in the supply chains, which are impacted due to climate change. While the Partnership for the Americas of Climate, IPA, has made significant headway in the last 15 years, and that includes growth of renewable energies, more electrification, and strengthening of regional integration. Despite all of that, there are still challenges which require a renewed effort focused on resilience and interdependence regionally. Our delegation also values the fact that the work plan looks at the coordination with financial institutions and regional and hemispheric-wide bodies and agencies. We also appreciate the strategic orientations in the programs that might contribute to the results of the 10th Summit of the Americas. We believe that CD can play a relevant role as a political space and a technical space in order to accompany the process. It can thereby facilitate exchange of knowledge, good practices, and strengthen energy cooperation hemisphere-wide. Finally, we would like to express our availability and willingness to work constructively in the discussions that are planned in the context of this work plan. We would also like to continue contributing to the dialogue geared to strengthening hemispheric architecture for energy security that would be inclusive, resilient, and focused on our people's needs. Thank you.
Gracias a la delegación de República Dominicana.
Thank you to the Dominican Republic. I now give the floor to the representation of Guatemala. Good morning, one and all. Thank you, Chair. We'd like to start by thanking Ambassador for his stewardship and wish him every success during this semester, working towards the next General Assembly and focusing on our priorities, which, as you and other members have mentioned, are worthy of our commitment especially. This year is especially important because it commemorates the 30th anniversary of CD. This is an opportunity to look at the importance of this body as one of the main bodies of the OAS. We're called upon to promote technical and political discussion, to promote integral development with specific results, concrete results for the benefit of all of our peoples. Mr. Chairman, we appreciate the presentation of your plan of work and that the goals move our dialogue towards a topic of particular importance for the region. It highlights the strategic relevance of energy and the needs for responsible management, especially given the energy transition worldwide. In this regard, we underscore the importance of energy planning with an environmental and social approach in mind. We believe that this semester will be an opportunity to deepen our discussions in this area as one of the approaches that was proposed, as the Ambassador of the Dominican Republic said, for the 10th Summit of the Americas. We can also identify efforts that drive forward at the regional and national level this goal, and that with a view to contributing to the hemispheric context for this. In this regard, we need to make headway towards a consensus that allows us as members of this organization to adopt clear mandates that guide the work of the Technical Secretariat for Integral Development, particularly in the context of the Inter-American Partnership for Sustainable Development. We plan to work constructively with you in this regard. Thank you. Thank you, says the chair. I now give the floor to the Ambassador of Costa Rica. Thank you very much, sir. Good morning, one and all. I'd also like to begin by congratulating you, sir, on assuming stewardship of the Inter-American Council for Integral Development. We are prepared to work with you and with your distinguished delegation in order to put in place all the plans that we heard about today. Indeed, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Mark Lambridis for presenting the work plan. We are very pleased because the work plan provides us with an opportunity for building bridges and building consensus, and especially to coordinate with other processes that are underway in this same institution, such as the Summit of the Americas, as we just heard from the Ambassador of the Dominican Republic. My delegation very much appreciates the integral approach that you mentioned and would like to make two specific references. First, we think that it's key to strengthen strategic alliances and partnerships also with other organizations, as we heard about today, and with the academic world, the private sector, and other multilateral bodies to create a clear added value that's complementary, but always avoiding duplicity of efforts. Especially when resources are scarce, we have to be even more careful and intelligent about how we manage our resources and goals in this organization. Secondly, we'd like to recall the fact that the establishment of any new initiative needs to stem from specific mandates handed down by member states. These initiatives need to go hand in hand with their idea of human resources, funding, and other resources that are necessary for effective implementation of these mandates and their sustainability over time. We appreciate the topic that you propose, which we as member states are all coordinating our efforts in the area of energy security. And we heard with enthusiasm the fact that new initiatives will be launched and there will be new proposals, but especially we would like to be cautious about where these mandates will take us and where all these initiatives will take us. And of course, you can count on our delegation to support these new structures that you're discussing, as long as we always have a clearly established mandate in that regard. We would like to continue participating in active and constructive manner in this very worthwhile process, which is exploratory. We are convinced that clear, transparent, frank discussion with clear mandates, as I said, and with the support of institutional and financial capacity, we will be able to make headway in a concrete way towards energy cooperation hemisphere-wide to promote resiliency and sustainability in the region. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Ambassador. I now give the floor to the Ambassador of Argentina. Thank you very much, Chair. May I begin by congratulating you? I think I've congratulated you for other appointments. I don't know if you have any other responsibilities that you've shouldered, but please don't put too much on your plate, not because of your capacity, but what the physical limitations. We are here to help you with all of your responsibilities, not just this one, but others as well. Thank you as well for the coffee, which we are very much enjoying and very much appreciate. Quite simply, the energy matter is a multidimensional issue in development, and it's reasonable and strategic to include it on CD's agenda. Argentina is a country that has a complex energy, pluralistic energy system with a number of different energy sources, including nuclear. The government of Argentina designed a strategy for promoting investment in energy, which is important, and critical rare earth minerals are important in that regard. We need to receive more information about the work plan, understanding that the technical sectors of my country, given the complexity I just mentioned, need to be able to continue studying this, to be able to enrich it, and work with the plan and agenda if that were possible. At least that's our intention. We would like to help with ideas and suggestions in a constructive manner to enrich the agenda. We are pleased that the Chair is working based on a consensus to move forward with the whole agenda, and we believe that the private sector should have an important place in these discussions. We understand that the key word or the key concept here is synergy, and public-private synergies are important not just in energy but in other areas of development. In fact, it's a key factor, and I understand that the Chair is encouraging and understands that momentum and dynamic, and that's why we understand that we'll be working along the same lines with you. Finally, I'd just like to say that we are pleased that key issues such as energy are being included in the CD for cooperative work in the Americas, always seeking consensus and endeavoring to create a space where countries have the time to be able to be active participant and constructive in the process. Encouraged, and I encourage you, Mr. Chairman, to continue with your strength and leadership that you're already showing at the very beginning of your stewardship of this very important agenda. Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. I now give the floor to the Ambassador of Peru. Thank you very much, sir. As my colleagues have done before me, I'd like to begin by congratulating you on assuming the helm of this CD and wish you every success at the helm. Today, we're almost all present, not virtual. First, we'd like to commend you on the plan of work for 2026 that puts energy as a key sector to be addressed, looking at resiliency, sustainability, and regional integration, as well as building hemispheric consensus in this area. We think it's especially relevant that the plan seeks to strengthen the role of CD as a technical and political space to analyze energy as a factor that enables social economic development and to use resources in a context of energy transition taking place gradually. Peru followed the presentation and the plan of work that was presented and would like to actively contribute to the work planned in the context of CD for the first semester of 2026. Before concluding, Mr. Chair, I'd like to just tell you a little story about energy and diplomacy. An anecdote. 5 years ago, I was working as a consul general in Houston for Peru, that's the energy capital of the world, right? Because that's where you have all the headquarters of all the energy companies and businesses. And I was having a conversation with some colleagues, the Consul General of Argentina, Brazil, friends, Consul Generals, we were all chatting. And we were talking about being so close to the world of energy, and we were discussing amongst us, the various general consuls, we were talking about how helpful it would be to have a joint vision of energy and the opportunities that we could leverage. And we were saying amongst ourselves, and if we were just consul generals, right? So we didn't go deeply into the topic, but we were saying it would be wonderful to have a common regional space to talk about these topics. That was 5 years ago. So I'm very pleased. In fact, it's stupendous that 5 years later I find myself in that space, which has become a reality. It gives us an opportunity to discuss something that's important. But I just wanted to thank you with that story. Thank you, says the chair. I agree that it's an interesting challenge. Energy integration in the Americas is an interesting challenge. And I now give the floor to Mexico, who had requested it, I believe. And then there was a problem with the microphone, so then we moved on to the next person on the list. Go ahead, Ambassador. Thank you, sir. Like the other delegations, the delegation of Mexico would like to join them in congratulating you on assuming the chairmanship of this council. We would also like to express our support for the plan of work that was presented for the first half of this year, and we would like to express our willingness to work constructively on the issues of energy, specifically resiliency, sustainability, regional integration, and energy transitions. Mr. Chairman, you can count on our full support to work on these issues to build a consensus for the next summit of the Americas. More specifically, we would like to see 2026, the Inter-American Council will be celebrating its 30th anniversary and also the 25th anniversary of the reform of the Charter. In the meeting in Managua, which established specialized spaces so that the region could promote integral development and a regional approach to reducing poverty and inequalities as the very foundation of the OAS. Since its inception, Mexico has always provided sound and productive support to the work of the CEDU as a very relevant body in the OAS, which has sound capacity in the area of cooperation and solidarity for development regionally. We believe that the scenario that's before us at this time requires us to boost and make more visible this council so it can continue to meet current and future challenges in our region for the benefit of all the people in our region, especially the most vulnerable. You can count on our full support and availability. Thank you.
Gracias, señor embajador. Y también
Thank you, Ambassador. Now, the 30-year anniversary of CITI, I thank you for the proposal and offer that you've made in that regard. I give the floor now to Madam Ambassador of Ecuador. Just a favor, Chairman. I would like to thank you very much for whoever it was that provided us with these pastries. Enthusiasm is a very beautiful world that encompasses the concept of God. So with full respect, I would just like to say that and thank you for that. Now, the delegation of Ecuador would like, first and foremost, to congratulate the permanent mission of Uruguay for having presented this work plan of the Inter-American Council for Integral Development, CITI, for the period January to June of 2026. We recognize the work that the chair has put into this and to manage to offer a timely, cohesive agenda focused on energy security as a strategic approach to integral development, resilience, and regional integration of the Americas. The proposed focus is particularly important given the current challenges the region faces. Also, the work plan offers us to reassert the role of CITI as a political, technical, hemisphere-wide forum for a close look at energy integration for social cohesion, development, as well as regional integration. All key factors for the development of the culture culture and of integration, all by way of doing away with poverty. We would like to request of the chair, as we have said traditionally, that the states be provided with information regarding the energy security alliance of the Americas, especially as regards the mechanism that we are awaiting, including that proposal. So the Republic of Ecuador abstains from offering any value judgment about that partnership or alliance until we have sufficient inputs about it. And given the historic importance of it, the Republic of Ecuador would like to express its full willingness to actively contribute to the implementation of this agenda, sharing national experiences, good practices, and technical wherewithal in the different thematic areas that have been proposed, as well as supporting the consensus, garnering of consensus to facilitate and pave the way for energy integration. We're fully aware and willing to work together on this. We underscore the importance of our defining clear content and limitations of this undertaking. The concept of energy security itself, focusing on the approaches that you seek to ensure, that is, what the geopolitical, economic, and environmental focus, and even social focuses are to be, or rather, are you going to work on insecurity and on how some countries seek security as a political tool? We also are grateful for the fact that the 30th anniversary of City has been considered for celebration in close coordination with the Secretariat, with the Committee of Policies as a mechanism for strengthening City, as well as the permanent missions. Now, these efforts to coordinate are key for us to make sure that there be political appropriation, coherence, consistency, such that we can showcase City's value as a body that focuses on the integral development of the region, adding new value to the strategic role of the OAS, and to project strategically the political institutional role that it plays. Now, just by way of a reminder, we do have mandates that we need to hew close to. Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. Many of the questions that you have asked, indeed, are going to be addressed here. As we further craft this work plan, the delegation of El Salvador is recognized. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My delegation also joins in congratulating you for your chairmanship, and we offer our support to your success. Now, we're grateful for the work plan that's been presented for this semester. Without any doubt, the matter of energy security, given how timely and the fact that it is a priority matter in many areas, warrants a holistic approach endowed with the necessary resources to achieve concrete results for El Salvador. It's essential for us to promote international solidarity and cooperation for us to move forward on resilient, inclusive sources of energy. That which has been proposed is in line with that. They should be tied to prior mandates of the different city plans with a view toward the GA. This can lead into discussions within the 10th Summit of the Americas, as has been mentioned. It should also strengthen the partnerships between different public and private sectors, among others, such that we can strengthen the process of modernization and energy transition of our states, and to drive inter-American cooperation that be effective on the subject matter through mechanisms and available resources. We reiterate our willingness to actively take part in these discussions to achieve the objectives set forth in the work plan with a view toward garnering consensuses that would enable us to achieve this energy transition in the region. Thank you, Ambassador. Chile has the floor. Thank you very much, Chairman. I congratulate you for assuming the chairmanship of City and wish for you the best of success. And keep up your health. Chile is grateful for the presentation of this work plan and the comprehensive approach submitted in the document as energy being key to development. This line of work is consistent with the efforts that my country has carried out over the last 2 decades. Energy security in Chile is focused on moving toward a renewable energy makeup, leaving behind fossil fuels. Renewables account for 68% of energy production in our country, bringing with it many advantages, something I'm sure we're going to address in this work plan. For example, infrastructure, storage have to be addressed, and the need to reduce energy waste. We'd also like to underscore and make available to this body our experience, the law of public law of electrical efficiency for 2050 seeks carbon neutrality for 2050, and based on that we have experience we would share with you. This is in line with the guiding principles that inspire the work plan that you have brought to us here today, and we hope that City be capable of working with other venues of the OAS, bodies of the OAS, hemispheric security, and other bodies that address this subject matter here at the OAS, and hopefully some of the proposed products can be fashioned in conjunction with these other OAS bodies. We hope for you the best of success, and you count on Chile making its experience available to you that we have accumulated over the last 2 decades in this effort. Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. Indeed, I count on all of the delegates here and the delegations for that support in achieving our goals. I give the floor to St. Kitts and Nevis.
Thank you, Chair. St. Kitts and Nevis would like to congratulate you, Ambassador Lanza, on assuming the chairmanship of this all-important body, the Inter-American Council for Integral Development, CD. We look forward to working with you on this impressive work plan that you have presented for the next 6 months, noting that some deep thought has been obviously put into it. Therefore, we welcome the opportunity and pledge our full support as we work together to advance this agenda. We wish you all the best, Ambassador. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. The Ambassador of Colombia has the floor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just as all of those who spoke before me, I also commend you for taking on this role and wish for you the best of success in the work you are about to undertake as chair, and you can count on Colombia for fleshing out this strategic plan that you have brought to us here today. Now, we have the same concerns that have already been expressed by some of my colleagues. One, the matter of your health, by being overworked, and then our health, because with all of these pastries that have been lavished upon us, we are likely to gain too much weight. And I thank your wife for having made those pastries for us, and the ambassador of Ecuador. Now, the plan that you have presented to us addresses a topic that is essential. In fact, I think if it's not the most far-reaching, most important one, it is indeed the most important one, because it has to do with climate change. The group of experts, intergovernmental experts on climate change, which started working at the end of last century about the importance of climate change. Now, climate change has been redubbed as climate crisis. Climate change crisis. climate emergency is what we hear about now. We're hearing about climatic collapse, and the matter of energy is intrinsically linked to that, and so it does need to be addressed, as you have suggested it be, is one of the essential, far-reaching, substantive matters that we need to discuss. The Ambassador of Chile just raised something very important, which is carbon neutrality, and how we need to definitively or decide definitively if we are going to continue with fossil fuels as sources of energy, which have given rise to problems, gas, petroleum, or if we're going to finally move toward green renewables. Colombia has placed. We have seen how renewables are more beneficial to us. So I think you have hit on one of the most topics that indeed warrants a broad discussion. And of course, this does have to do with integral development, given the fact that all of the headlines we've seen around the subject matter that you have brought to us shows how important it is. Thank you, Ambassador. Many have talked about the contributions, culinary contributions made by my lifelong companion. Hopefully that will continue. Given that there are no further delegations requesting the floor, I would like to thank you for all of the contributions in addressing this work plan with all of its subject matters. I take note of the contributions made, the suggestions made, and of course we're going to need your support, all the delegations, to put together the different panels for us to address all of these very thorny, complex issues. So I put to the room at this point for your approval of the work plan, and then be able to move on to the next item, today's order of business. I see no objections. The work plan is approved. Now, the commemoration of the International Day of Volunteering for Social and Economic Development. We continue with this celebration. This was raised by Ecuador and enjoys the support of the delegations of Brazil, Canada, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Salvador, Guatemala, Panama, Peru, Dominican Republic, Suriname, and Uruguay. I would like to stress that volunteering is an essential tool for economic and social development by promoting citizen participation, strengthening social tissue, complementing public policies geared toward the well-being of our societies. Its contribution is particularly important within a context of inequality, institutional fragility, and crisis response, where the action of volunteers enables us to broaden the reach of public policies and to strengthen solutions at the community level. So, volunteering plays a very key role in strengthening social cohesion, building more resilient societies, fostering solidarity, co-responsibility or burden sharing, and active citizenship. This is an important factor that contributes to sustainable economic development, human capacity building, and strengthening peace and democratic cohabitation. Now, it's our pleasure to have with us speakers from civil society whose background concretely shows the transforming value of volunteering. Dr. Graciela B. D. Alter, president of the foundation Summa Veritas, whose work has focused on economic social empowerment of women through sustained programs of volunteering, mentorship, and capacity building. Ms. Mercedes Huerta de Padui, who promotes social volunteering in Ecuador, having done so for the last 4 decades, working in communities on social inclusion and support for vulnerable populations. I'm going to invite the panelists, Dr. Graciela B. Otto, to share her thoughts. I would ask you to stick to the allotted time. At 11:45, the Secretary General is going to come to offer a few words on the occasion of the opening of this session. Dr. Graciela D. Otto has the floor.
Buenos días a todos.
Good morning, everyone. Mr. Chairman of the Inter-American Council for Integral Development, Ambassador Lanza, Executive Secretariat, Barbara Kochua, Mark Lampides, Director of Sustainable Development Department, ambassadors, permanent representatives, alternates of member states. It's an honor for me to take the floor at this very important meeting. Today, I'm not going to speak of charity, but of economic capital that isn't on the accounts according to the program of volunteering of the UN. If we were to add volunteering, it would account for the 5th largest economy of the world as a measure of the GDP, given the magnitude of social and human capital that we're talking about. Volunteering is 1.5% of contributions. In Latin America, we face a challenge. Most of our volunteers or in volunteering is informal, takes place in neighborhoods outside official accounts and records. It has a social and economic impact through fiscal savings because it relieves pressure on education and health care systems, complementing public policy, acting as a multiplier of government programs, extending their reach in those venues in which the private and public sectors alone could never reach. But these are cold statistics, and now I would like to add a human face to these figures. Now in Córdoba, in a region where we have a group of families that live at the foot of or on top of a mountain rather, whose problems, who have a problem generating a sufficient supply of water. Now water is trucked in and they would hire someone who would divine for water, and they would then bring in a well driller, and sometimes they wouldn't hit water where it was divined, and so they also have to harness rainwater. There are volunteers for that purpose from Buenos Aires as well as from the province of Córdoba, to bring to bear technology and for the building of cisterns that are capable of storing water on people's roofs during the raining season. Now this system places rain gutters on the roofs that then channel water into these tanks. Just to give you an idea, close to one family consumes 350 liters of water, which is sufficient for a month of use. Now, if we look at the economic impact, that actually brings down the cost of purchasing water. And so for 150 ongoing work carried out by volunteers, has led to savings working with rural women and working on very rocky land, and they were able to also plant orchards and also gardens, as well as provide water for their livestock. Now, I would make a call to action so that through this International Day of Volunteering, we can showcase that which is rendered invisible, and to understand that volunteering holds a strategic importance. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, doctora Deot.
Thank you very much for your contribution, also for sticking to the allotted time. I think what we have now is a video. Mercedes Huerta de Paduy has the floor.
Buenas tardes, señoras.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, representatives of the American states. Now, to speak of social volunteering, this moves me deeply because I don't speak of it from the standpoint of theory, but rather it's based on more than 50 years of direct and personal experience working side by side with those who have made a life out of public service, volunteering service. I have had the opportunity to see firsthand the volunteerism of Ecuadorians, especially in Guayaquil, women and men who oftentimes, without any type of recognition, without any spotlight shining on them, without support from the government, have achieved transforming results in a context in which poverty isn't just a statistic, but rather a daily reality. Over these decades, I have volunteered in social, medical, community, educational, and ecological environments. And if there's something I can assert without a doubt, and that is that those who benefit most from volunteering are the ones who actually volunteer. This service doesn't only transform outside realities, but it deeply enriches the spirit of he and she who serve. It's important to have a clear understanding of what it means to be a true citizen. It's not sufficient to have an ID card, as my brother or Pope Francis used to say. The current Pope says critical poverty, understanding it, means you have to go and experience firsthand extreme pain from poverty. There was an experience that marked my life for all. My volunteering in the Rotary program, the Women's Community Bank program, which takes place. This was a program that started in 1940, created by an economist in Bangladesh, Nobel Prize winner in 2006, and whom I had the opportunity to meet in Guayaquil. And his experience was revolutionary. That is, to help those who historically have been sidelined from the financial system. Among the many social assistance programs that Rotary fosters, the communal banks of women have become some of the most effective tools to reach women who had never had access to lending, women who, despite all of the prejudices they are subject to, have shown levels of responsibility in payment of nearly 100%. But lending alone does not suffice. I with him, taught how to save. This was an effort of ongoing training. From this process, we see emerge women who are very brave, who achieve economic sufficiency through effort, education, sacrifice, and especially through solidarity. years after having formally concluded my work with that program, I returned there to hear what they had to say, and what they said confirmed to me that volunteering well done can leave a lasting mark. This was an experience for Ecuador. We continue to work together and committed to our environment, they said, and each one of us is a true revolution that we have undergone. Another said, it doesn't matter what resources one may have, it's always possible to save. Another added how important it is to learn and to put into practice what we have learned. That's why we continue to save and to lend out money that is paid back in full. And one smiled with a smile I'll never forget, said that we will never lose hope nor the joy that this has brought us. Now, to take part in this social effort, that is the best indicator, isn't the emotion you feel at the moment, but the witness that is born over time. Not just the personal impression, the one-off impression, or the group impression while the work is being done, but the sustainable, real impact that this has on the lives of people. Through this forum, I would like to express my profound thankfulness to Rotary, who gave me one of the most beautiful experiences and opportunities I've ever had to serve as a volunteer. This reasserted or reaffirmed my conviction that those who most benefit are those who serve, especially when working for causes that aren't always tried and true, and you do so without showboating, to plow in the sea without being afraid of plowing in the sea or doing something that's fruitless, because any effort put forward is worthwhile. I've also learned that social work isn't something one does out of vanity or pride, but to replicate that which has proven to be effective. That is a means of being socially responsible, no matter how noble one's intention may be. And whatever immediate result, short-term result there may be, it's not going to have long-term results if it doesn't last in time. So it calls for commitment and persistence over the long haul. Now, I have sought to involve volunteers, young men and women from different walks of life, education, sports, art, motivational speeches, can have faith restored in a dignified life. Much more has to be done, but the path forward is clear. Let's not just ask ourselves how much I do, but how much more I could do, to understand that we often think we need to rise quickly, but we have to look out to the horizon with open arms. That's what volunteering is. That's how we see it in Guayaquil. This is a silent group of volunteers that work steadily together, that doesn't expect applause, but that hopes for a better future. Thank you.
Muy bien, agradecido.
Thank you. Thank you for your participation, and Madame Huerta de Badui for her testimony, what she bore witness to. And now I open the floor for member states. I start with the Ambassador of Argentina. Thank you, dear Chair. I would like to join in commemorating the International Day of Volunteering for Development, Economic and Social Development. And I'd like to especially thank you and the Secretariat for the quality of the panelists at this session. I especially like to thank my compatriot, Dr. Otto, president of the Summa Veritas Foundation. Not only was her presentation relevant, but it's also hard in just a few minutes to summarize so many years of commitment to voluntarism and making women dignified based on different training processes, so that women can benefit, and that have benefit can then go and share as full citizens enjoying dignity with life projects. but at the same time, they can serve as leaders of new volunteer-based projects to continue promoting inclusion and dignity for other women. It's a process that feeds itself, a positive feedback loop. And what struck me about this NGO was the fact that they're constantly following constant participation of women, and they're consolidating their gains and then use that to continue to grow, to broaden the networks and expand them for volunteers. And that includes this economic and strategic role of volunteers is key, and it's an act of justice, and it's an act of goodwill for each society. Thank you, says the chair. I now give the floor to the Ambassador of Peru. Thank you, sir. Peru would also like to commend this initiative of celebrating the International Day of Volunteering for Economic and Social Development, and we'd like to especially thank the delegations of Ecuador and Panama for providing this space within CD, and we'd like to thank the panelists for their very worthwhile contributions. Volunteership is a significant way of contributing to social cohesion, citizen participation, and the resilience of our societies. It's also a fundamental tool to create ties of friendship between countries and sisterhood and brotherhood between their citizens through sharing of values, knowledge, and experiences. Through the concept note, this was all reflected in the concept note that was prepared for us. Peru would like to highlight that 2026, as many of us know, was proclaimed by the United Nations General Assembly as the International Year of Day of Volunteering for Economic and Social Development, so that we can cement volunteering as a key element of sustainable economic and social development. Therefore, Peru values the fact that volunteers not only have an impact, but it's also highlighting the importance of the methodology that we should recognize and measure its economic contribution, which is key in order to more systematically include it in public development policies. Finally, Peru reiterates its full support of the work of the Inter-American Council for Integral Development, and we are firmly convicted of the importance of this, and will continue to support the exchange of good practices, South-South cooperation, and triangular cooperation as effective means of promoting volunteership and promoting the integral development of the Americas. Thank you, sir.
Gracias y tiene la palabra.
Thank you. I now give the floor to the Ambassador of Colombia. Thank you, sir. I'd like to thank the panelists. First, I'd like to thank Mercedes and Graciela for their presentations, which show us through their experience of volunteering on a daily basis makes it even more present. And this is always important for making important headway towards development. I'd like to thank Veritas and Rotary for their contributions, which were very important and deep-seated. We'd like to thank Ambassador of Ecuador, Monica, for her leadership on this very important topic, and also for driving a declaration that will be read shortly. And Colombia was very pleased to accompany in the crafting of it, not only because of its content, which we think is very substantive, but also our government recognizes volunteers and volunteership as a way to work towards achieving our development goals. We all know that normally the day of commemorating volunteers is the 5th of December, but now it was moved forward to today. And here in the CD, volunteership contributes decisively to the development of our communities. It strengthens the social fabric, it promotes solidarity, and it broadens spaces for citizen participation, especially those that are the most excluded. It also promotes local capacity and leadership. It improves the employability of our young people and promotes a more sustainable and inclusive economy based on social capital and social cohesion. And that's why Colombia bet on this hugely through designing and implementing the plan of action for young people, peace, and security. And based on what Mercedes was saying with regard to the youth, it seeks to bring about cultural change that would guarantee the rights of young people so they can exercise their rights in building and consolidating peace for the development of Colombia in keeping with the mandate set forth in Resolution 2250 of the United Nations in 2015. This is combined with a participatory and territorial approach, working with a mechanism in order to transform young people into agents of change, to work towards change of Colombian society in the future. And in this regard, our president, Petro, has made headway in consolidating social service for peace. This is an alternative to compulsory military service and is very much related to Costa Rica's model here, which allows young people of the age of 24 or younger to participate through volunteering to build peace and strengthen peace through our territories. Through this program, young men and women participate in actions such as accompaniment of victims, digital literacy, protection of the environment, and promotion of a culture of peace, recognizing the institutional support for this, especially the mayor of Bogota, and this initiative led by the president. This initiative reflects our conviction that building lasting peace requires active participation of our citizens, and volunteership in that context becomes a key tool for reconciliation, prevention of violence, and the peaceful resolution of disputes by promoting dialogue, inclusion, and recognition of the other throughout the territories. The OAS can promote volunteership in the region through regional programs that, according to the United Nations experience, coordinate citizen participation with sustainable development, building peace and social inclusion programs, and driving the exchange of good practices and building capacity of member states. The OAS could contribute to consolidating volunteership as a strategic tool for the integral development of the Americas. You can count on Colombia to support this type of initiative that promotes development, cooperation, and multilateralism in our hemisphere. So all of this is welcome, especially with regard to integration and Latin American integration above all. Thank you. Ambassador, says the chair. Brazil has the floor. Thank you, sir. Would like to start by thanking the two panelists for their contributions to the discussion of this morning. Brazil would like to especially congratulate Ecuador and the permanent representative, Ambassador Monica Valens, for including this on our agenda to discuss volunteers for social and economic development on today's agenda, and that Brazil also is co-sponsoring. Volunteership is an expression of complementary positive efforts and policies adopted by our states. It's a constructive role played for civil society and contributes through different initiatives to the development and well-being. We have no doubt that volunteership can play a relevant role in complement to the state's actions, contributing to a more effective implementation of collective interest. Volunteership then strengthens solidarity, it promotes citizen participation, and strengthens cohesion and social responsibility. These are essential elements for building more inclusive societies. We believe that dialogue in the hemispheric dialogue such as we're having today provides a relevant opportunity to share good practices and recognition politically of the importance of volunteership. We recall here that in the environment of the United Nations, Brazil and Japan facilitated and have done since 2012 triannual resolution on the role and strengthening of volunteership to show our appreciation for the importance of this practice. In that context, we would reiterate our support to the declaration that will be adopted later today that provides recognition of the work of millions of volunteers in various sectors of our societies. We value volunteers, and that means recognizing that they assume responsibility, not replacing the responsibility of the state actors, but they take collective action which strengthens our democracy. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, señor embajador.
Thank you, Ambassador. I would like to extend my greetings and welcome the Assistant Secretary General, Abord Marin, who arrived from the airport and came straight here in order to accompany the presentation of our new session of CD this year. And with delegation's permission, I will not give you the floor. We'll respect him and continue first with the declaration. The delegation of Ecuador will read it out. But I'd first like to give the floor to the Assistant Secretary General to say a few words. So we'll take a quick break, and then we'll give him the floor, and then we'll resume our agenda. You have the floor, sir. Thank you, sir.
Ambassador Edison Lanza, Permanent Representative of Uruguay to the OAS and Chair of the Inter-American Council for Integral Development, and of course, distinguished permanent representatives, ambassadors, delegates, our own secretariat and staff. First of all, I'd like to apologize to those who are listed to speak, and I have broken into that schedule. I apologize for that, but the chair was so kind enough to allow me to speak immediately. First of all, it's a pleasure to join you at this first meeting for 2026 of the CD, and I want to congratulate Ambassador Lanza for assuming this role in a time when we also celebrate the 30th anniversary of the day that this important body was officially established. Many years ago, I was also, when I was permanent representative here, chair of CD, and I must say there is quite a bit of a difference in terms of attendance and the level of attendance since then. That was in 1998. So I would appeal to member states to have the highest representation possible at these meetings, given the fact and the importance of development in the whole purpose and goals of the OAS. More than ever, development is a critical aspect of our societies. And I'll speak to that, but I wanted to support Ambassador Lanza for asking you kindly as permanent representatives to attend these meetings regularly, and I will make that commitment from myself to attend as well, if not a high-level representative, but certainly my interest in terms of development is clear, and not so much as a pillar on its own, but as a pillar in relationship to the other three pillars: security, human rights, and democracy. I want to say also that economic development is one of the important purposes of the Organization of American States. The original charter adopted in 1948 of the OAS speaks about two elements which are relevant in the work of the OAS today: peace and prosperity. Those were the original objectives of the Organization of American States. It translated into in democracy, human rights, and others, and later on included in the charter. But originally it was about peace and prosperity. And the prosperity agenda has everything to do with development and the development agenda. So I think there is no doubt that development is part of our work. We are not a development agency as such. We don't have the resources for that, but it is a forum of member states where we can discuss development issues and put them at a higher level, and also adopt resolutions and mandates that will guide other development agencies in the Inter-American system, whether that be the Pan-American Health Organization or the Inter-American Development Bank or the Institute for Agriculture in Costa Rica. Those three, but others as well, on youth and so on and so on. So again, there is enough reason for us to pay more attention to the CD. The relationship between democracy, this is how we know it, democracy, human rights, security, and then development, I tend to turn it around and to say development first, then go to security, human rights, and democracy. Simply because in today's world, these are interrelated matters. If there is not sufficient economic and social development, if people do not have a future on the short term, if they don't have a job, if they don't have income, then for them, democracy has not delivered. And that is what is necessary. Democracy must deliver so that development objectives can be achieved. And that is the composition of a holistic society, a just, free, fair, and collective society where nobody is left behind, especially not the marginalized groups in our societies. So there is so much to speak about this interlinkage between this integrated approach that we need, this holistic approach that we need, a whole of society approach when we speak about these four principal elements of the OAS. And in this regard, and I have mentioned this before in other speeches, we will pay specific attention to the role of other actors in our society. When we speak about a whole of society approach, of course, we're not only looking at governments, but also at the role of NGOs or specialized entities, and certainly in this case also the private sector. Recently we established, last week, the Interdepartmental Working Group on the private sector, and they will be drafting a plan of action so that we can see how we can involve the private sector in development objectives. And again, this is something which I have just 2 days ago in Panama told the private sector. It is not philanthropy. It is not corporate social responsibility. It is an investment which the private sector must make as a line item on their budget, because it is also in their interest to have a politically stable, democratic space to produce in and to trade in. So if we can have that discussion here, Mr. Chairman, we have a clear message to everyone in our hemisphere, at the government level, at the private sector level, trade unions, and the NGOs, what their role should be in fostering democracy, human rights, security, and development, sustainable development especially. There are specific issues which I'm not going to discuss here, but issues with regard to energy and food security, issues with regard to the environment, are all elements of the development agenda which affect democracy and human rights and the social well-being of many in our societies. So I hope that we all embrace this linkage in such a way that we see the need to be here and to come here and represent those values as well. So, Mr. Chairman, I don't want to say that we give mandates, but there is a lot on your plate to modernize this process. And with that, institutionally, we are already looking at how, and I'm talking to the team right behind me, and I want to thank them for their commitment. As I said, always, our Secretariat has great people working for us, and they should be recognized for that all the time. We have been discussing with the 3 directors present, and we will have ultimately soon an executive secretary for SEDI. But I believe that in collaboration, in close collaboration with member states through the chair, and we hope that we'll facilitate physical space for you there so that you can be present, and with some technical support. CD is at the same level as the Permanent Council, and we have to respect and recognize that. And that's not the case so far. So what I want to say is, on all those specific issues, we will have separate views, but it will require some changes in the institutional arrangement at CD to make it more effective. And we'll come with proposals to you so that we can serve member states more effectively, more in a coherent way. Because at this point, I find there are too many single projects. It has to be in a coherent way, in an integral way, how we support member states. We will have this discussion, we'll listen to member states. And I want to indicate that On the issue of the private sector, we want to have that engagement with the member states in CD and hear your views. I've been talking to the private sector, hearing their views. Everywhere where I go, we have meetings with the private sector. But I think that they are willing to connect with the democracy agenda, with the human rights agenda, and with the security agenda. And my last comment is, I'm convinced that the critical issues which we face today in our hemisphere, organized crime, security in general, but certainly transnational organized crime, issues with regard to migration, issues with regard to the environment, with regard to energy and food security, we can address effectively if we work with the private sector. And it will mitigate those challenges. And if we can go that route, it's a different way of looking at how every single entity and segment in our society will contribute to the well-being of all in the Americas. I thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity, and thank the member states for willing to listen. And soon we will come to you with a more comprehensive. I know that the action plan has been adopted, but in the context of that action plan, with a slightly enhanced approach with regard to the meaning and the role of CD, including involving the three other inter-American institutions, principal inter-American institutions in this process. We need to align so that we deliver better. I thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Secretary General, for joining us in this first session, and of course for highlight the role of the city in the context of the 30 years of anniversary, and welcome to to join with us and in that work plan to highlight the different challenges that the region face in this matter. Gracias entonces y
Thank you then. And we'd like to free you because we know you have a busy day. Thank you so much for joining us. I'd also like to thank the delegations who did not take the floor and took a little break. We will continue then giving the floor to talk about the issue at hand, which is the importance of volunteering. I now give the floor to, on the same topic, Guatemala. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'd like to extend our greetings to the Secretary General and thank him for accompanying us in this session. We'd also like to thank the delegation of Ecuador for including this item on our agenda to commemorate the International Day of Volunteering. And we also appreciate the two panelists' presentations. We recognize the work of volunteers as the maximum expression of solidarity, community, and empathy that exists between people to accompany those who most need help working with our communities, and this is even more important in situations of vulnerability or emergency. We believe that this altruistic work is a significant expression of collaboration and cooperation that leverages and helps institutional efforts towards development. We need to make these people more visible and be inspired by them. And we appreciate the fact that the Secretariat showed a quick video that showed the humanitarian volunteer work in Guatemala. We would like to express our gratitude to all of the volunteers who dedicate their most important resource, which is time, to helping. We also appreciate the initiatives as a fundamental contribution to economic and social development. Thank you.
Excelentísimos miembros de la Organización de Estados Americanos. Es un honor para Cruz Roja Guatemalteca dirigirse a ustedes en el marco del...
We're celebrating the 40th anniversary of the International Day of Volunteering for Economic and Social Development. Today, we are not just celebrating a day, we're celebrating a shared history of resilience. Anonymous hands of thousands of volunteers of the Guatemalan Red Cross, modern history of Guatemala and the world, could not be told without mentioning the volunteers. When the earth trembled in 1996, it was the volunteers that became the first responders. Before any other help arrived, a Red Cross team from Guatemala arrived with help. Over more than a century, at the darkest moments, due to volcanoes, storms, earthquakes, floods, and volcanic eruptions. Through all of this, thousands of Guatemalans have given their time to help those who most needed it, thereby showing that volunteering is the very backbone of our response at a national level. Volunteering is not just part of history. It's not just acting in disasters. It's a pact with social economic development, which is daily and silent. Today, thousands of Red Cross volunteers in Guatemala are in the streets, in the communities, everywhere. Without those volunteers that save lives and transform them, providing hospital attention, medical attention, donating blood, bringing volunteer help, training, thousands of actions for humanity. They are always there, and they will continue building, contributing to the social fabric before, during, and after any situation. Volunteering is the maximum expression of solidarity, of humanity, impartiality, and neutrality that can exist amongst people. Let us honor them, ensure their future, and recognize their work, altruistic work. We can continue working together for a more resilient America and one that stands united. The Red Cross of Guatemala, without them, we cannot. We need them.
Bueno, muchas gracias.
I thank the delegation from Guatemala for having shown us that very impactful video. Uruguay has the floor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We would like to thank the panelists for their presentations, having made a worthwhile contribution to this matter of volunteering. We would also like to express thanks to the delegation of Ecuador for its proposal and the celebration of the International Day of Volunteering and its social contribution. That gives us an opportunity to think about an essential aspect of our democratic life, volunteering and its contribution to society. The institution of volunteering should not only be understood as an expression of solidarity, but as a collective, organized practice that's institutionally recognized, which contributes meaningfully to the development of a country. Uruguay has a long tradition of citizen participation and commitment to communities and building well-being collectively. From that standpoint, volunteering historically has been a key tool to support public policies, to strengthen social networks, and to express empathy vis-a-vis certain social occurrences. We, in 2005, passed a law which establishes a legal framework for social volunteering, a law that doesn't only recognize existing practices, but lends legitimacy, protection, and order to volunteering, endowing it with clear rules and principles, ensuring its responsible exercise. Social volunteering as an activity carried out by people who, through their the free expression of their will, offering their knowledge to contribute without anything in return, working from nonprofit, private organizations, and the public sector as well. This reasserts important pillars, the absence of profit and a calling for public work. This emphasis on volunteering and its complementary nature that doesn't require any remuneration, nor does it place people in a position of vulnerability, recognizing the role of volunteering as an additional contribution that's very worthwhile, but that doesn't replace the state's responsibility, nor does it replace the work of professionals. From the standpoint of public policy, volunteering is a strategic tool of great importance through programs driven by state programs working together with civil society. Thousands of people actively take part in activities of social inclusion, education, health, culture, caring for the environment, and assisting those most vulnerable. Since 2009, in Uruguay, there's a national dialogue board on volunteering and social contribution, which is an opportunity for people to come around to bring a host of organizations and civil society together, the business sector, academia, public sector, and international bodies as well, with a view toward promoting, fostering, and showcasing volunteering in its different manifestations. This doesn't only broaden the scope and reach of public policy, it bolsters social capital, it promotes burden sharing, co-responsibility, and builds active citizenship committed to the common good, enabling bringing institutions closer to the community, strengthening ties of trust, leading to a more cohesive society. From a broader institutional understanding, it also fulfills an educational role. Those who take part in volunteering acquire civic experience, strengthen democratic values, and deepen their sense of belonging to the community. From that standpoint, volunteering doesn't only bring about a social impact, but it contributes to forming more aware, participatory, and committed citizens. Volunteers express through this organized work and where they are most needed in adherence to clear guidelines, fulfill a very important role. I would like to stress that promoting volunteering strengthens democracy. It is a wager for a more participatory, human, and fair society. We have a solid legal groundwork for volunteering, allowing people to make a generous contribution to the collective well-being. We do have to offer the conditions and recognition for those who do this, such that volunteering can continue to consolidate itself as a social good. Thank you. El Salvador has the floor. Thank you, Chairman. We thank the panelists for their presentations. Especially, we recognize the leadership of the permanent mission of Ecuador for promoting the celebration of the International Day of Volunteering for Economic and Social Development. Within this context, or this council, we offer a co-sponsorship and support for the draft declaration we're about to hear. Now, this celebration calls upon us not only to recognize, but to reflect deeply on the value of those who volunteer their time to transform realities. Volunteering is an agent of change, contributing to strengthening local capacities to tackle challenges, support sustainable development, and to build more inclusive societies. The global outlook with a local presence is important. We would like to offer special thanks to those volunteers who have worked in our region, who have shared their knowledge and abilities with us, and have shown that international cooperation is a powerful tool to build more empathetic societies. Oftentimes, we don't fully gauge the impact of volunteering. Volunteering changes lives and offers meaning to people's lives, those who offer their support and those who receive it. The government of El Salvador, through its volunteering law, has reasserted its commitment to push for volunteering in all of its manifestations. We believe that volunteering strengthens the social fabric, drives community innovation, promotes citizen participation, among other tangible benefits to our society. During the year of 2025, through the volunteering program of the El Salvadoran agency, ESCO, has brought in volunteers from different countries and different Peace Corps, as well as organizations that have worked on projects in education, youth, community health, resilience and risk management, sustainable agriculture, entrepreneurship, protection of the environment, and technological innovation. bolstering the legacy of volunteering, building capacities, and sowing hope. Now, this celebration is timely for us to recognize the interns, experts, ad valorem contributors in all the different areas here at OAS whose contribution contributes to the development of this organization. It also motivates us to work together to strengthen volunteering among member states, because international volunteering is a cultural bridge. Lastly, to all of the volunteers of Americas, El Salvador thanks you for your time, your knowledge, your big heart, and your willingness to serve. Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. Barbados is recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Building a better world is a responsibility we all share. The Barbados delegation welcomes the opportunity to add its voice in honoring the women and men, boys and girls who freely gave their time, energy, skills, and service to make our world more just, humane, and more resilient. We recognize the power of volunteering to drive meaningful regional, hemispheric, and global change, and we witness its impact every day. Volunteerism strengthens a culture of service and embodies the very best of our humanity. From responding to natural disasters and feeding the homeless, to supporting communities, to uplifting at-risk youth, serving at national events, and as we all saw, risking their lives as we navigated through the COVID-19 pandemic. Their selflessness and courage are unmistakable. Against this backdrop, the government of Barbados remains firmly committed to working with volunteers and volunteer organizations everywhere, recognizing that the true value of service lies in its impact on those who need it most, where people are heard, seen, and placed at the center of a sustainable development vision. Mr. Chairman, and thank you.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you. The Dominican Republic is recognized. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our delegation joins in the celebration of the International Day of Volunteering for Social and Economic Development, an occasion that calls upon us to reflect on the worth of volunteering as a transforming force that strengthens economic development, social cohesion, and citizen participation in our societies. From the standpoint of the Dominican Republic, volunteering is more than just an action of solidarity in our country. Volunteering has proven to be a meaningful complement to the state's action, especially within contexts in which public responses call for the assistance of the community, local knowledge, and civic commitment. This interaction between public institutions, organized society, have enabled us not only to enhance the services the state offers, but also it assists in decision-making processes, strengthening social fabric. Fully aware of that contribution, the Dominican Republic has been forging ahead in offering institutional recognition of volunteering as an integral part of sustainable development, which is a mission it has. Law 112 establishes the national strategy of development for 2030, calls for promoting volunteering as a mechanism through which society can take part in the development process and to express solidarity as an essential value. From that standpoint, we have pushed through initiatives that seek to value the work of volunteers, offering a national award for volunteering, recognizing the commitment of people and organizations who, from different vantage points, contribute concretely to economic and social development. This acknowledgement reflects a clear conviction that volunteering does not replace the action of the state, but does strengthen and complement it. the Ministry of Planning, Economy and Development has promoted support mechanisms and articulation that seek to strengthen the volunteering ecosystem, fostering greater coordination across community initiatives, civil society organizations, and public policy, recognizing the value of organized volunteering as well as the informal expressions of volunteering, where much of the social capital of our societies lies. Mr. Chairman, for the DR, one of the main challenges we have identified and seen internationally, underscored in the report on the state of volunteering, is to shed light on volunteering and to recognize the impact that it has as to achieve a better understanding of the different ways it assists, especially informal volunteering, which oftentimes remains outside the formal mechanisms for gauging such work. Now, this body is a venue for dialogue, enabling us to achieve a collective understanding of volunteering as a strategic ally for integral development and building our societies in the Americas. We reassert our recognition of volunteers within our region, men and women who believe in the collective commitment and collaboration by way of building development and thereby well-being. Thank you. We give the floor to Panama. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to offer our congratulations for this first session at the helm of City and to express our recognition to the delegation of Ecuador for having put this topic on the agenda and the very worthwhile interventions of the panelists who have spoken today. The Republic of Panama joins this commemoration recognizing the fundamental contribution of volunteering to promote social development, community cohesion, and bringing peace to society. For the government of Panama, volunteering is a genuine expression of solidarity which contributes to build and strengthen social fabric. Over the last decade, we have strengthened our institutional framework on volunteering, promoting the articulation of civil society, private sector, and public institutions, as well as generating evidence, enabling us to better understand the scope, impact, and reach of these initiatives. Volunteering builds bridges between citizens and the state, brings about social inclusion, and brings peace to society. At times of crisis, it has proven to be an effective tool to galvanize resources and to bring to bear a response, strengthening institutional responses. From the permanent mission of Panama, we appreciate especially the role that civil society organizations play and volunteers in building more inclusive and participatory societies. We also recognize that cooperation among member states can also contribute in a meaningful way to an exchange of good practices geared toward strengthening volunteering in our societies. Mr. Chairman, the Republic of Panama reasserts its commitment to promoting volunteering as a fundamental pillar of development, understanding that solidarity, cooperation, and citizen participation are all essential to build more resilient societies. Thank you. Thank you. The Ambassador of Chile is recognized. Thank you, Chairman. We thank all of the panelists for their remarks and the permanent mission of Ecuador for having included this topic on today's agenda and for showcasing this topic, something that we've been working on for a long time. So, Ambassador Valencia, thank you. Now, we appreciate this body as a venue for us to reflect on the contribution to social and economic development that volunteering offers in our countries. We reiterate our support to this effort. In Chile, there's a saint, Hurtado, who is one of the emblems of social justice that points out that charity begins when justice ends. And that sentence says a lot. The need in such an unequal continent where the state it falls to the state to do the biggest work of bringing about social justice, but there's a history of a legacy of inequality, and so the role of volunteering does play a key role precisely to reach where the state doesn't reach and to collaborate with the state where it can. So the inclusion of this topic on today's agenda is germane, especially at a time having seen the forest fires in our country where volunteers are playing a very important role, assisting the role that falls to the state in addressing this problem. So for our country, volunteering is a concrete expression of citizen participation, social cohesion, and burden sharing in development. It's backed in our country by institutional framework, law, recognizing volunteering as a very important complement to the public's role, the state's role. From that vantage point, we promote, bring together different initiatives of volunteering through public institutions that are specialized. The National Institute of Youth, for example, which fosters youth's involvement in actions of public support, solidarity, the National Elderly Organization that avails itself of the knowledge of the elderly to assist vulnerable communities and environmental conservation that is carried out in our protected wildlife areas or wilderness areas. Volunteering is viewed as a organized effort that is geared toward common good. We agree with that which is stated in the draft declaration, saying that volunteering strengthens local capacities and leads to more inclusive societies that are also more resilient. We also recognize its role in promoting entrepreneurship, employability, and productive inclusion, especially among women, young people, and vulnerable communities through mentorship programs, knowledge transfer programs, and technical assistance. Volunteering also fulfills a key mechanism of social strengthening at a time of emergencies and crises, and when it's necessary for local communities to rebuild, leading to greater social peace and strengthening of communities. So we make a call to member states to continue fostering volunteering as a strategic tool for social and economic development in keeping with the principles of solidarity, participation, and cooperation, which inspire the work of this organization, never overlooking the primary role of states. Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. Mexico is recognized. Thank you, Chairman. Mexico is a country where solidarity and community work have historically been a very important part of our identity, social change, and they are determinant in response to natural disasters and social crises. Volunteers contribute to the achievement of the 2030 objectives, a very important asset working towards sustainable development. My country recognizes that volunteering plays a key role in strengthening the relationships between people and the state, favoring better governance, contributing to more equal and inclusive societies, promoting stability, strengthening social fabric. The UN volunteering program underscores in its report on the state of volunteering from 2022 the challenges faced by volunteers, underscoring that trends point toward making a comparison between informal and formal volunteering, and also underscores the lack of formality or the greater informality among countries has defined or contributed to defining the role of volunteering. It also underscores disparities in gender in volunteering, given the fact that men tend to operate more in formal volunteering environments and women in informal environments of volunteering. According to the National Institute of Statistics and Geography in Mexico, in 2024, 3.4 million Mexican citizens, men and women, were volunteers in different nonprofit organizations. In 2022, 70 of every 100 people that work or approach NGOs do so not seeking any type of remuneration. The economic value of volunteer work in these institutions reaches 214 million pesos without taking into account the social effort that is brought to bear during national meteorological extreme weather events. The resolution of the GA of the UN establishing the International Day of Volunteers. In line with that, the government of Mexico has, in 2019, created the National Award of Solidarity to showcase the work of volunteers, to support, showcase, motivate, and to express appreciation for volunteers working throughout the land. This award is divided in three different areas. For youth, for individuals, the winners receive an economic award and recognition. There are representatives throughout the Republic and all the institutions of the federal government that apply for this, and also the Mexican Red Cross, represented by or with the representatives of civil society organizations and the academic sector. This is an award that is a call to action and for collaboration among government, civil society, and citizens to build a more cohesive Mexico. The awardees of this award were the Chatino Collective, a gender collective organization, Ms. Zonaida Hernandez Gomez, a defender of the rights of indigenous women, and Ginny Jolie, who carries out activities of environmental awareness raising. We reassert our commitment to highlight the role of volunteering in the Americas, and we also join in the activities of a celebration called for by the UN Volunteering Program in the International Day of Volunteering for Sustainable Development, of which Mexico was a starting point in the regional launching of this event. Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. Canada is recognized. Thank you, Canada. I wish for you the best of success, and you can count on Canada's support. Canada is very happy to join other delegations to celebrate volunteering for economic and social development. On the occasion of the International Day of Volunteering, Canada acknowledges all the volunteers, exceptional volunteers, that are part of international efforts contributing to different organizations. The UN is launching the celebration of this day, and it's an opportunity to shed light on this, the work of volunteers and the role that it plays in communities, that there be a lasting, real change. Volunteering is exceptional in our country. We have a program recognizing volunteers administered by the Ministry of Work, recognizing volunteers and the social undertakings that contribute to these volunteering efforts.
5 Canadian civil society organizations launched the Time to Act campaign. This is an inspiring initiative led by 15 Canadian volunteer cooperation agencies. Launched on International Volunteer Day, this campaign is a national movement that celebrates volunteering, community engagement, and every action, big or small, that contributes to positive change. Time to Act invites Canadians to add a testimonial about their volunteer efforts to an interactive map, share inspiring stories, connect with groups and causes in Canada and internationally, and see how individual actions add up to create a collective impact. The Time to Act campaign is a call to action for Canadians. It reminds us that voluntary cooperation is an investment in Canada's future, in our international relations, in our inclusive economy, and in the diverse communities that make our country strong. Internationally, Canada's long-standing volunteer cooperation program aligns with our priorities by fostering inclusive economic growth, deploying experts where they are needed most, building innovative partnerships with the private sector, and engaging Canadians on the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. As part of localization and decolonization actions, Canada's volunteer cooperation program also supports the participation of South-South volunteers who come from countries of the Global South and carry out placements in other southern countries. In the Americas in particular, since the launch of the program in 2020, South-South volunteers have advanced environmental sustainability and climate action, helped strengthen child-led strategies for the prevention of gender-based violence, contributed to the development of an educational guide for adolescent girls on gender-based violence and empowerment, strengthened women-led agroecology and environmental advocacy, and provided expertise on legislative reform, the prevention of human trafficking, women's entrepreneurship, and quality control in the coffee industry. To the Government of Canada, volunteering is not just an activity, it's a cornerstone of Canada's approach to international development. It helps respond to the growing interconnected challenges we face both domestically and internationally. As we look ahead, Canada will continue to champion volunteering as a catalyst for meaningful partnerships and sustainable developments, working with communities at home and abroad to build a better world. Thank you.
I thank Canada for sharing your experience, and I give the floor to the Ambassador of Costa Rica. Thank you, Chairman. I would also like to join in the expression of thanks to the Permanent Mission of Ecuador, especially Ambassador Monica Valencia, who has been very enthusiastic on this topic, and I thank you for bringing to our consideration the recognition of the International Day of Volunteering for Economic and Social Development. We would also like to thank you for having brought that topic to this body, because this is a cross-cutting matter, not just concerning city. It's not only something that this council works on to the benefit of citizens in our region. We have joined this convening, and we also support enthusiastically the declaration that is about to be read, and we are grateful for all the initiatives. The UNGA on December 5th of the UN has brought this up, saying that the fact is every day this is a matter that's very important throughout all countries of the region, and today we join with our effort and our commitment to collaborate with Ecuador to put something together for that day in December here, working with the Ambassador of Ecuador. We also are grateful for the comments we've heard about service, especially what Graciela de Otto has said, the president of the Suma Veritas Association, and Ms. Lourdes Huerta as well, who promotes social volunteering in Guayaquil, Ecuador. We thank both for your very worthwhile effort to the benefit of society. Volunteering strengthens our democracies and communities, as we have heard from a number of speakers here today. It brings about a real impact by way of social inclusion, making society more cohesive and building new leaders among young people and women. Now, the concept note underscores its contribution to the well-being, capacity building, and more citizens that are more committed to the common good. Volunteering is a very important part of this organization's work. Now, Ecuador's invitation to include this commemoration in today's session underscores the importance that it holds for the region. That is, for us to continue promoting these initiatives among our member states and within the OAS itself, which is why I prevail upon you to continue having us think about and reflect on the importance of volunteering to citizens in our region. Now, in Costa Rica, we have borne witness to the transforming value of working for others at times of humanitarian, environmental events and natural disasters. Volunteering has been a useful tool to strengthen resilience and to spur solidarity which so characterizes our society. Today, we renew our commitment to support those who offer their time, their effort, and their talent to build a more democratic, fair region. We celebrate this date, recognizing its role in economic and social development, and we encourage other people to join in this collective cause. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Ambassador. And now, indeed, first I'd like to thank you for bringing this important topic. And I'd also like to thank Ambassador Palencia, whom I will give the floor to so she can read the draft declaration that is being proposed. Thank you very much, sir. And thank you to each and every one of you who took the floor before me. Thank you for the space. And if I may, I'd just like to stay with what the delegation of Barbados said. Volunteering is about putting the most needy at the very center, and I think that's particularly relevant. Draft Declaration on International Day of Volunteering for Economic and Social Development. As part of the commemoration of the International Day of Volunteering for Economic and Social Development, established by the United Nations General Assembly, and considering that the United Nations has proclaimed 2026 as the International Year of Volunteers for Sustainable Development, 25 years since the celebration of the first International Year of Volunteering of Brazil, Canada, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Ecuador, El Salvador, Guatemala, Panama, Peru, the Dominican Republic, Suriname, and Uruguay hereby reaffirm their commitment to the work of volunteers in the Americas. Volunteering, by strengthening social capital, enhancing local capabilities, and promoting productive inclusion and economic development, contributes significantly to building societies that are more cohesive and resilient. Volunteering features a key ability to mobilize knowledge, innovation, and technical assistance, speed up solutions at the community level, and generate value added at the local, regional, and international levels. Its role is especially relevant in promoting entrepreneurship, notably among young women and young people, through mentoring programs, support networks, and personalized support to facilitate income generation and job creation. In addition, by building within community relationships marked by trust and cooperation, volunteering fosters more supportive environments, positioning it as a key pillar for promoting peace and strengthening collective capacity to address social changes. Volunteering, therefore, serves as a social support mechanism that sustains the community fabric and underpins local recovery processes, thereby helping economies to become more inclusive, participatory, and adaptive in the face of uncertainty. In marking International Volunteer Day, the delegations therefore convey their deepest appreciation to volunteers who use their time, skills, and knowledge to support communities and contribute to economic and social development, fostering cooperation, transfer of skills and knowledge, promoting employability, collaboration, economic inclusion, participation, and access to opportunities, thereby playing an important role in civil society. We invite the member states to continue promoting solidarity using volunteerism as a way to address society's needs, problems, and interests through the associations or foundations in which they operate, organizing themselves more systematically and synergistically, or even through individual efforts. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Bueno, muchas gracias nuevamente.
Thank you once again, Ambassador, for bringing us that declaration that was well read and acclaimed in the room. If there are no further observations, we would ask the Secretary to distribute the declaration and also the support for it so it is reflected in the decisions record. We move on now to the next item of our agenda, which is the presentation of the draft annual report of SEDI for 2025, contained in document CD/Doc 472/25. I ask the Executive Secretary for Sustainable Development to tell us the highlights of the report. And I give the floor to the Secretary to present it and the work done, and thank them for the work over the last year for the member states. This report reflects coherent and integral work that strengthen the role of CD as a political forum and a pillar for development. You have the floor, sir. You have the floor, madam, corrects the interpreter.
Ambassadors, permanent representatives, alternate permanent representatives, OAS staff, colleagues, and friends. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's indeed an honor and a pleasure to address you here in this meeting, in this inaugural session of CD. I'd like to join the delegations on behalf of the SEDI Secretariat in congratulating Ambassador Lanza on assuming the presidency for this session, and also thank him for providing us the opportunity to provide an overview of the 2025 annual report. I'll do my best to stay within the 7-minute limit. But regardless of the time allotted, I have to acknowledge that I will not be able to do justice to the tremendous work that has been carried out by former Executive Secretary Kim Osborne, Directors Lambrides, Jacoman, Robert, and Secretariat Chief Duran, as well as the technical, project management, and administrative experts in the Executive Secretariat for Integral Development who have worked so hard to deliver the results that are provided in this report. I may take an extra minute or so. We won't have enough time to go over everything, and so if any of the delegations have additional questions, the Secretariat would be happy to consult with you at another time. So 2025 was a year of delivery for SEDI. The annual report shows how we translated the mandates that we received from this body into concrete results that strengthen the prosperity, equity, and cooperation across our hemisphere. All our work is grounded in the work plan approved by this body and in the OAS strategic plan, spanning inclusive and competitive economies, sustainable development, education, labor, and human development, decent work, development cooperation, and ports and logistics. This alignment, the one SEDI approach, is intentional and essential. It ensures coherence, accountability, and impact. In the area of economic development, the strategic line 1, to promote inclusive and competitive economies, we're delivering in a challenging context. We're in a realm of slow growth, inflation, and inequality, while positioning countries to seize emerging opportunities such as nearshoring, digitalization, and deeper regional integration. A cornerstone of our work in the Economic Development Department is trade intelligence as a public good. Through the CSIT trade platform, we have added more than 100 new trade policy updates and reached 15 million visits and over 5 million downloads, making it one of the most widely used trade information platforms globally. Transparency and data are essential to competitiveness, especially for smaller economies and smaller firms. At the core of our work are micro, small, medium enterprises, MSMEs, culture, and tourism. In 2025, we supported dozens of firms with e-commerce plans, digital platforms, and targeted campaigns, many of them women-led. Through tourism and culture initiatives, from indigenous tourism to carnivals and fashion, we reinforce creative economies as engines of inclusive growth. Our America's Competitiveness Exchange, the ACE initiative, continues to turn connections into action. 3 ACE editions across the United States, Brazil, and Argentina, taking place in Illinois, Belém, and Córdoba, provided best practices and served as an inspiration for entrepreneurs across the Americas. These ACE editions generated 147 letters of intent across 22 countries, while delivering cost savings for host regions looking to attract investment, business, and inspiration. We also advanced science, technology, and innovation, operationalizing AI governance through regional dialogues, launching the Latin American AI Index with partners, expanding our network of centers of excellence, and convening over 3,000 participants at the OECD Local Development Forum in Barranquilla. To prepare the future workforce, the Youth Academy on Transformative Technologies reached more than 39,000 learners, about 40% of which were women and girls, demonstrating strong demand for skills linked to innovation and productivity. In our sustainable development pillar, SETI delivered where climate, water, and resilience intersect, mobilizing and leveraging over $65 million in support. Our Sustainable Development Department strengthened transboundary water cooperation, advanced climate pilots, and reinforced disaster risk management and early warning systems. They also laid the groundwork for the proposed Energy Security Partnership of the Americas, the ESPA, which Director Lambridas mentioned in his presentation this morning, and launched the Climate Finance Hub. The Ocean Agenda is now operational, with a $20 million pipeline supporting sustainable ocean planning, fisheries, tourism, and sargassum management. Moving to the realm of education and human development, we focused on systems and not just programs through digital education frameworks, youth democratic participation, scholarships, and lifelong learning. Since its inception, the OAS scholarships have reached over 72,000 beneficiaries across the Americas, with continued expansion through the educational portal of the Americas, which, as a side note, is also celebrating an important anniversary, its 25th this year, as well as the Leo Rowe Fund. On labor, SETI helped 29 ministries of labor collaborate on the future of work, addressing artificial intelligence, digital platforms, skills certification, and worked hard on the implementation of the 2025-2027 ICML roadmap. SETI continues to multiply impact through development cooperation and partnerships, scaling climate programming, revitalizing the digital platform Cooperanet, strengthening language cooperation in all of the official languages of the OAS and helping us communicate better with one another, and engaging alumni networks to provide multiplier effects of the cooperation endeavors. Finally, the element of ports and logistics, which is so critical to competitiveness and resilience, saw expanded training, expanded disaster risk management, and regulatory support across the region. The Secretariat, the Inter-American Secretariat on Ports is looking forward to hosting the 25th meeting in Barbados, which will be held in June in 2026. Now, I realize that I've not done justice to any of the areas, but hope that you have a sense of the work that SETI has been carrying out over the past year. We will circulate the PowerPoint, an expanded version of the PowerPoint. You have at your disposal the annual report, and we would, as I mentioned before, be happy to take any questions in the future and have discussions with you on any element. So the technical experts sitting behind me are eager to engage in those conversations. In closing, we're proud of the results that we delivered last year across the full spectrum of integral development. In 2026, we stand ready to go even further with your support and with your collaboration to scale what works that have proved to deliver and get even greater impact for the people of the Americas. I appreciate the time, Chair. I appreciate your interest and am open for questions if we have time for that. And look back to the Chair. And apologies if we took a few more minutes than the 7 allotted.
No, it's a pleasure, and it's important that the work that made the Secretary. Y agradezco en particular.
I'd like to most particularly thank the Executive Secretary, Interim Secretary, for presenting this annual report. And I'd also like to recognize and express our value that we attach to the work done by SEDI. We appreciate their work. It contributes tangibly to sustainable development and equitable and inclusive development of the Americas. And now, I'd like to thank you for presenting the annual report, and I would invite delegations to take the floor if they wish to make comments or observations.
Tiene la palabra el embajador.
I give the floor to the Ambassador of Mexico. Thank you, Chair. Mexico has looked in detail at the draft annual report by SEDI. It's an adequate proposal for member states to see their different sectors and ministerial process and be able to participate with what's set forth in the strategic plan of the organization. It also deepens and enriches the document, and my delegation believes that the draft plan of work should include a reference to indicate the commemoration of the 30th anniversary of CEDAW, and that this will be included in 2026 as set forth in the resolution that drives hemispheric initiation for integral development for 2025. And under item 3, that it mentions that member states are invited to commemorate this anniversary and to participate in the design and launching of a commemorative campaign that promotes and makes more visible the central work of the organization. We would very much appreciate the inclusion of such action in the annual report for this year. Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. I believe on the next item of the agenda we'll be talking about the plan, but we have taken due note ahead of time of what you said. I now give the floor to the Ambassador of Costa Rica. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Costa Rica would like to also start by thank you, Dr. Alvara, and the Interim Executive Secretary for the presentation of the plan. I'm also getting ahead of our agenda, so we'll just speak once. First, to recognize the leadership. It's always a good time to recognize the work of colleagues and from the different departments and to highlight the value they add with their work and implementation of an agenda that for us has always seemed very worthwhile, organized, and in keeping with the mandates issued by this council. We also value their efforts to coordinate everything that we do in one SEDI, one-stop shop, so that there's more consistency amongst the sectors and also to grapple with various common challenges in a coordinated manner for our region and for which we need a very coordinated response. We could reference digital transformation, competitiveness, strengthening democracy, cooperation for development. These are just a few of the topics which are of the highest importance for us. We also recognize how important it is for us to strengthen cooperation mechanisms horizontally, south-south, to build capacity for our authorities. At the same time, we'd like to acknowledge the need to continue making headway in strengthening follow-up and evaluation mechanisms, not just to measure coverage and activities, but also to identify more clearly the concrete impact of given public policies or initiatives and institutional capacity in our member states. Along those lines, Costa Rica reiterates the importance of permanent missions also having periodic information provided in a systematic way and in a timely way, as you said, Mr. Chairman, so that we have the information available and can communicate so that the SETI departments can get the feedback from the permanent missions in a hierarchical way and not the reverse, especially with regard to implementing projects and initiatives or undertaking activities that require a mandate to be handed down from this council and the member states. As I've said earlier, this fluid and regular communication strengthens transparency, accountability. It facilitates political accompaniment by states and promotes results in achieving integral development and avoiding duplication of efforts with other organizations. Coordinated efforts amongst ministries, program of work, and the program of work of CD is key, so they can help us clearly orient our work towards development in this organization. Before concluding, I'd like to once again reiterate our recognition of the professionalism of the entire SETI team, and we are fully prepared to continue working together so that we can make progress towards development for the Americas. Thank you very much, Ambassador, says the chair. I take this opportunity to add my gratitude to that of the authorities and directors accompanying us from the different offices. And I'd like to specifically mention throughout this morning, in addition to those next to me that I didn't introduce and those from the interim secretary that we did introduce, we also have the Director of Human Development, Education and Employment, Sucri, and Jorge Duran, Director of Ports. And Mr. Barra has two hats responsible for city and economic development, and some of the teams from the different departments. We also have them here, so we'd like to thank them for the work that they do for us. And now I'd like to go back to our agenda. If we follow it, and if there are no other comments, we should be able to approve the annual report that was just presented. All in agreement? It is approved. The fifth item of our agenda is to address and present the draft work plan of SETI for 2026. I think different delegations have already spoken about this. Both Mexico and Costa Rica have made comments on this ahead of time. But now we have the schedule, the lunch hour, and no doubt there's some fatigue given the long day. So I would suggest that we include the presentation of the work plan and considerations of delegation without prejudice to getting ahead for the next regular session of the CD. A work plan needs to be addressed with enough time and carefully. We need to allot enough time for that task. And now we're just half away from completing this meeting, even with the extension. And so with such distinguished presentations, I think what might help is to postpone consideration of this item of the agenda. But you could still send in comments in writing if you wish. And then at the next regular session, we can address those when we take up this item of the agenda again. If all are in agreement with that procedure, that is how we'll proceed. And we'll move on then to item 6 of the agenda, draft roadmap for capacity building to improve trade in the Americas. On this item, I would invite Barbara Koswar to make comments about the progress made with this document.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to all the delegations for the responses on the annual report. With respect to the trade capacity building roadmap, which we developed together through the last semester, we received a number of comments and suggestions from countries up until about last week. We are working to incorporate those and will circulate a revision 2 of that document for your consideration in advance of the next meeting. So if, we appreciate countries' suggestions and commentaries on the roadmap, and we'll present that document in the next week or so.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Madam. We thank you for the report, and we'll be expecting the document for next week then.
Bueno, muy bien.
Very well then. We said before concluding and moving on to other business, we had mentioned, I'm sorry, the ambassador from El Salvador has requested the floor. Yes, thank you, Chair. First, we just wanted to thank and recognize the work done by Ambassador Martin Chaweh, specifically the work done working with the Secretariat to process all the inputs, suggestions, and proposals and the various elements that were discussed in various sessions that were reflected in the roadmap for building capacity for trade in the Americas. This reflects a commitment and rapid progress to work towards a business model that is simple, modern, and flexible, that promotes greater competitiveness. Since this is a priority topic nationally and regionally, we think it's vital to have achieved concrete results in CD to promote this in the region and to promote the effort of states in this area. But it also shows reflection on human resources, funding, and other criteria and issues that are necessary for sustainability and to meet the objectives set. In the current context, we need to recognize one of the pressing challenges for the organization that impacts integral development, the need for prioritizing activities and empower work with consistent mechanisms so as to not duplicate efforts. We're also obliged to be creative, given the limited resources. Thus, we recommend looking at priority areas and inputs for the roadmap and focus on concrete and possible activities, such as, for example, creating a compendium of good practices of all member states and have the Secretariat systematize it, optimize the use of the CooperaNet platform to put forth requests for cooperation of mutual interest for each country. And to that end, it's necessary to strengthen the technical and financial foundation of this to make possible exchanges between the countries. We would recall that we have successful experiences in exchanging technical good practices and technical cooperation for development in the context of the Inter-American mechanism for real cooperation. There is interest and there will be participation of states from the same national institutions to the extent that we identify real and possible objectives to build institutional capacity or the development of cooperation programs using modalities that have been successful in the past. We can promote action as proposed in order to inputs for the roadmap and avoiding proliferation of work and coordinate efforts with all the various bodies, work together with realizable goals in the context of the resources that we have available. Thank you very much.
Gracias, embajadora. Por supuesto.
Thank you, Ambassador. We await the final presentation of the roadmap. Before concluding today's session, I would like to reassert that this year we are celebrating 30 years of CITI as the main inter-American forum devoted to the promotion of integral development of our peoples. This has been said over and over again during today's session, as well as the fact that its creation has revolutionized how we address the changing profile of the region, calling upon member states to come up with strategies, best practices, and with a comprehensive outlook toward development that be people-focused. I would like to underscore the particular importance of this anniversary for its symbolic meaning, celebrating the 30 years of CITI in these meetings and the different activities that we hold that enable us to highlight the value and the legacy of this council and the contributions it has made as we tackle challenges faced by the region. On this, I would like to especially thank the Secretary General for having been here and the Secretariat of SEDI, as well as the distinguished ambassadors here at this first session of CITI. Thank you very much for having been here to kick off this year's CITI activity. The floor is open. Should any delegation like to address any other matter? There not being any requests for the floor, once again, I thank you, and we adjourn the session.